Welcome, friends, to a tale of the Wild West, where the whiskey flowed like water and the sound of gunshots echoed through the saloons. Today we're stepping into the dimly lit, sawdust-covered world of the honky tonk. We'll meet 6 infamous figures who live by their own code, written in bullet lead and whiskey fumes. Our first tale takes us deep into Texas, where the legend of John Wesley Hardin was born. Texas in the 19th century was a wild and untamed land, a place where the law was often just a suggestion, and survival depended on your wits and your gun. Hardin wasn't just a tough guy. He was considered by many to be the deadliest gunfighter who ever lived. Born in 1853, he grew up in a time and place where violence was a way of life. By the age of 15, he had already killed his first man. They say he killed over 40 men, and while the exact number is debated, one thing's for sure: Hardin was quicker on the draw than a prairie rattler. His reputation spread far and wide, making him both feared and respected. However, he was a mean old drunk, a brooding presence in every saloon he entered. His temper was as quick as his draw, and he didn't need much of an excuse to use his gun. One story claims he shot a man dead just for snoring too loud in a hotel room next to him. Such was the unpredictable and dangerous nature of Hardin. But Hardin wasn't just a cold-blooded killer. He was also a cunning outlaw, always one step ahead of the law. His ability to evade capture became legendary. He was eventually captured and spent 17 years in prison. During his time behind bars, he studied law and even wrote an autobiography reflecting on his violent past. On a hot August night in 1895, John Wesley Hardin's luck finally ran out. He was shot in the back of the head while playing dice in a saloon in El Paso. Thus ended the life of one of the most notorious figures of the Old West, a man whose name still echoes through the annals of history. Now let's mosey on down to Tombstone, Arizona, a town synonymous with gunfights and gambling dens. It's here we meet Big Nose Kate, a woman who could outdrink, outgamble and outfight most of the cowboys in town. Born Mary Catherine Horney, she immigrated to America from Hungary and quickly learned that survival in the Wild West meant playing by your own rules. She wasn't afraid of any man, least of all the law. She ran scams, stole when she needed to, and even got into her fair share of shootouts. Saloons were her domain. She worked in them, drank in them, and knew all their secrets. She lived life on her own terms, and in a world dominated by men, she carved out her own legend. Our journey through the Wild West underbelly takes us next to Texas, where we meet Ben Thompson, a man they called the gentleman gunfighter. He was known for his sharp wit, his impeccable manners, and his deadly accuracy with a pistol. Thompson ran a string of saloons, but these weren't just places to wet your whistle. He killed men over card games, gunned down rivals in broad daylight, and ruled his saloon empire with an iron fist. However, Thompson's luck, like that of many a gambler, eventually ran out. On a fateful night in 1884, he was gunned down in a San Antonio saloon, betrayed by those he considered friends. Her name was Lottie Dino, and she was a legend in the saloons and gambling halls of the Wild West. Lottie wasn't your typical frontier woman. She was known for her beauty, her charm, and her impeccable Southern manners. She pretended to be a wealthy Southern belle, using her charm and wit to disarm her opponents at the card table. Little did they know she was a card sharp of the highest caliber. She travelled from town to town, winning fortunes at poker and leaving a trail of broken hearts and empty wallets in her wake. Lottie Dino's story is a testament to the power of reinvention, of creating your own persona in a world that tries to define you. Our next tale takes us to the darker side of the honky tonk, where we meet Dave Rudebour, a man whose life was a tangled web of crime, violence, and of course cards. Born in 1840, Rudebor's early years were marked by hardship and a relentless pursuit of survival. He quickly learned that the quickest way to make a buck was through less than honest means. Rudebor wasn't a flashy gunfighter or a charming gambler. He was a hardened criminal, a thief, and a killer who haunted the saloons and back alleys of the Wild West. His reputation was built not on charisma but on fear and ruthlessness. He was a man who would stop at nothing to get what he wanted. He was a MasterCard sharp, known for his lightning-fast hands and his ability to cheat without even blinking an eye. His skills at the card table were legendary, and many an unsuspecting gambler found themselves penniless after a night playing against him. Rudebor was a mentor to the infamous Billy the Kid, teaching him the tricks of the cheating trade. Their partnership was one of mutual benefit, with Rudebor gaining a loyal accomplice and Billy the Kid learning the dark arts of deception and survival. But his luck, as it always does in these stories, eventually ran out. Despite his cunning and skill, the lawless lifestyle caught up with him. His notoriety made him a target, and he found himself constantly on the run. He was caught stealing in Mexico and met a particularly gruesome end, beheaded, his head placed on a spike as a warning to other would-be outlaws. His death was a stark reminder of the brutal justice that awaited those who lived by the sword in the unforgiving landscape of the Wild West. This is the story of Rowdy Joe Lowe, a saloon owner with a hair-trigger temper and a fondness for other men's wives. Joe was known far and wide, not just for his saloon, but for his fiery personality and his penchant for stirring up trouble. His reputation preceded him, and it was said that he could go from calm to furious in the blink of an eye. Joe ran a popular establishment, a place where cowboys and miners came to blow off steam, drink their weight in whiskey, and maybe get into a little trouble. The saloon was always bustling, filled with the sounds of laughter, clinking glasses, and the occasional brawl. It was a place where men came to forget their troubles and indulge in the wild side of life. But Joe wasn't content with just running a saloon. He was a man who lived life on his own terms, consequences be damned. He had a notorious reputation for his affairs with married women, which only added fuel to the fire of his already tumultuous life. Joe thrived on the chaos and seemed to invite trouble wherever he went. One fateful night, the saloon was packed, the air thick with tension. The usual rowdiness was overshadowed by an uneasy feeling that something was about to happen. The patrons could sense the storm brewing, and all eyes were on Joe, waiting to see what would unfold. Whispers of the love triangle had spread through the town, and everyone knew it was only a matter of time before things boiled over. The gossip had reached a fever pitch, and the tension in the air was palpable. People whispered in hushed tones, speculating about the inevitable confrontation. When the smoke cleared, Joe lay dead, another victim of his own reckless heart. His fiery temper and reckless ways had finally caught up with him, leaving a legacy of chaos and a cautionary tale for those who dared to live life on the edge. Well, folks, there you have it. 6 tales of the Wild West, 6 souls who lived and died in the flickering gaslight of the honky tonk. Their stories may be over, but their legend lives on, a reminder of a time when life was cheap, love was fleeting, and the only sure thing was the bottom of a whiskey glass. If you enjoyed this journey back in time, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more tales of notorious figures and forgotten history. Thanks for watching.